Okay, up next we will have speakers from Logan University. We will have, 1 second here, Dr. Jason Goodman. He is a 1998 graduate of Logan College of Chiropractic. After spending 9 years in private chiropractic practice, Dr. Goodman joined the staff at Logan University. He is primarily responsible to oversee trimesters 7 to 10 students in the Doctor of Chiropractic program. He focuses on providing robust clinical experience opportunities for students that are eligible for clinical rotation. Also, we have Christopher Gardner, who is currently a 3rd trimester student completing his 1st year of the Doctor program at Logan University. Chris attended Michigan State University and Montclair State University, where he ultimately earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in exercise science. And then lastly, we have Stephanie Farnsworth, who is an external relations officer with Logan University and travels throughout the Midwest speaking with students about chiropractic. I think I saw Stephanie here.
Yeah, I think everyone's here.
Okay. Do I need to make any of you a co-host to share a presentation or anything like that?
Nope, I think we're just gonna talk.
Okay, perfect.
So to start, if you think we're ready to get started.
Yeah.
Okay. If Dr. Goodman, if you'd like to start and introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys, and really happy to share a little bit about Logan University and really, how my career started and, what got me into being interested about chiropractic. My story is, it's not unique. There's nothing, earth-shattering about it. I grew up in a household that my dad was a chiropractor, and believe it or not, I never wanted to be a chiropractor. I, in no way, shape, or form, wanted to be a chiropractor. I did not want to do what my dad did. He worked really hard. He did house calls growing up. He was gone many weekends. Teaching seminars on the weekend, and I didn't really want to follow in his footsteps. But I grew up around Logan University, and it was part of my life. And it wasn't. I went to Southwest Missouri State in Springfield, Missouri, which many people know as Missouri State University now. And I was studying to be an accountant. And I love mathematics, and it was kind of my love. And if I wasn't going to be an accountant, I wanted to be an airplane pilot. And one day, I was sitting there, and I remember it vividly. My girlfriend said to me at the time, she says, "All you ever talk about is chiropractic and Logan College of Chiropractic." And I got to thinking about it, and it was true. I thought about Logan all the time, and I thought about chiropractic all the time. And that's really when the tide started to change. I was in my 2nd year at Missouri State University, or Southwest Missouri State University. I was already heavily involved in the sciences. I had chemistry, I had biology, I had different sciences. So I had a strong science background. And about 18 months later, took a few more prereqs. I took physics, I took organic chemistry, I took anatomy and physiology, and applied to Logan. And in 1995, I started my journey into being a chiropractor. And I know 1995, most of you on this call are probably way younger than I am. I will turn 49 years old this year. I know that seems like it's probably ancient times. But I got to tell you, becoming a chiropractor was the absolute best decision of my life. And when you go into a profession like chiropractic, it's and I think you're going to hear this from a lot of different professions. It's really it comes down to, what you feel in your heart. It's not really what you feel in your brain. It's what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And when I believe most of you on this call are in a kinesiology program, and we get a lot of students from a kinesiology program. But it's not just chiropractic we're talking about. Let's just talk about health professions in general. And in today's day and age, when you look at how, Jason Goodman decided to become a chiropractor, it was, I wanted to impact individuals' lives in a positive way. I wanted to do it really without the use of drugs and surgery. And that was the backbone of what made me, Jason Goodman, decide to become a chiropractor, was to help as many people as I could without the use of drugs and surgery. And throughout my time, so I was in private practice, and I would say about 5 years into that, 1998, I graduated chiropractic school. In around 2002 is when I had a lot of students that would come to my office, and they would spend a day or two shadowing in my practice. And it's when I decided that, I really enjoy teaching really as much as I do practicing chiropractic. And around 2008, I started to practice part-time and also teach at the university. I was hired by my alma mater to teach as an adjunct faculty member, and an opportunity came to become a full-time faculty member. I still to this day practice chiropractic. My primary responsibility, though, is to help students of chiropractic fulfill their dreams in their last year of education at Logan. But it's a very rewarding profession. And when you deal with individuals and you look at healthcare across the United States right now, and you look at why chiropractic is just exploding right now, not just chiropractic, but other health-related professions, but I'm talking specifically about chiropractic. When you look back at the last 10 years, one of the biggest impacts that's really pushed chiropractic to the forefront is the opioid epidemic. We've been living through this pandemic of COVID, but the last 10 years, we've also lived through this other epidemic here in the United States, this opioid epidemic. And we've tried to figure out a way, not just chiropractic, but when you look at primary care physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, how is it that we can help as many people as we can without giving them the first line of defense as an opioid for chronic pain? And chronic pain is something that we deal with in our profession every day. And unfortunately, it's still new and it's still fresh. So the research, we don't have a ton of research right now to back up the claims that we make about how wonderful and great chiropractic is. And some of you may be in classes that talk about evidence-based approaches to different type of healthcare-related things that you do. But one of the things that we deal with is clinical experience. And clinical experience does guide an individual's pathway in being an evidence-based practitioner. I say practitioner because it doesn't matter what type of practitioner you are. So even after, I guess it's been 22 years now, I still love being a chiropractor. I have continued to be a lifelong learner. I went back and got my my PhD in higher education administration, and I'm a huge advocate of being a lifelong learner. I don't think learning ever stops. I have 7 children. I push each one of them to continue to learn at whatever age they are. I have children that range from 7 to 24 years old. But of course, I'm very biased towards Logan. I think Logan is the absolute finest chiropractic college university on this planet. I was born and raised there. But that's my story. That's the short of it. And I'm going to turn it over to somebody that can give you a real-time viewpoint of what Logan is like. Christopher, who is a trimester 3 student, I believe he's trimester 3, right, Stephanie? At Logan. So I'm going to turn it over to Christopher.
Thanks, Dr. Goodman. Hey guys, my name's CJ. I grew up in Wyckoff, New Jersey. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it. No, it is not the Jersey Shore. Yeah, so I'm in my 3rd trimester currently at Logan, and I've loved every single second of it. I really appreciate being here. When I was in your guys' shoes, I didn't actually fully know what I wanted to do. I was leaning towards pre-physical therapy track. And I started shadowing and working in different clinics and really starting to open my eyes to the whole profession and really see what I like and what I don't like. And then I actually had a patient come in one day and they suggested also looking at chiropractic. And I asked them, I was like, oh, isn't that pretty much the same thing? But all they do is give a quick pop of the neck, the back, and then they tell you you're cured of everything. And they were like, it's actually quite the opposite. They take a look at your whole body, your nutrition, your review of every system, and they really try to figure out what's going on. And then they can make a diagnosis right then and there and then set up a whole treatment plan. So for me, that was really what inspired me to get into this field, was because the portal of entry is they come into your office and you could treat them however you see fit after doing your homework on what you think is wrong. You don't have to wait on an MD, a PT, and DO, any other doctor telling you what you can and cannot do. And so for me, that's really what made me jump into the profession. And then in terms of choosing Logan, I mean, the curriculum set up so that in your first year, it's very science heavy, but you're always kind of almost shadowing an upper trimester student, where what you're learning in class is physically being applied in a clinical setting. And you're kind of there to see it in person, as well as learn hands-on very early on what they're doing and why they're doing it. So that by the time you do get into clinic trimester 7, 8, 9, and 10, you're fully prepared to see any type of patient walk through the door and be pretty confident in your skills to help that person get better. So that's definitely why I chose Logan. And there's 1,000 other reasons why, such as free tutoring, free chiropractic adjustments each week. The academic success team here, they treat you as if you're part of their family. They will drop everything. If you even just have a question, if you need help, they're just wonderful individuals. They break your whole schedule down. They sent me a schedule of every minute of every day of the whole week for the whole 15 weeks. And that's why I'm still in school, which is great. But if you guys have any other questions, I'm going to pass it along to Stephanie.
So I'm just going to chime in quick and give the admissions requirements for the chiropractic program. And then if any students have more questions, more in depth about what chiropractic is or more about the school, we'll be happy to answer those. So in terms of admissions, what we look for a student is out of their best 90 credits, they must have a minimum GPA of a 3.0. And out of the 90 credits, 24 of them have to be in a life, physical, or movement science background. So some courses that we recommend that help cover those are biologies, chemistry, organic chemistry, and physics. So one thing we do offer students is a complimentary transcript evaluation. So if a student is interested and they're unsure of how they stand with the admissions requirements, all you have to do is email a copy of your transcript. We'll let you know how you align, and should you decide to apply, we'll go ahead and waive your application fee. So if students are interested, there are a few things we can help with as well that students can contact me for. I can help with the transcript evaluation. I can help finding a chiropractor if you're interested in shadowing to learn more about what chiropractors do and see what they do on a day-to-day basis. And then we can also look to arrange campus visits. So we do have some visit dates coming up in January and February if students are interested in coming to campus. And what we'll do is we'll provide 1 to 2 nights of accommodations at a hotel near campus, and we'll also reimburse students up to $250 in travel fees. So if you have to fly from a destination, or if you're driving, you need gas expenses or meals, we will reimburse you for those expenses. So now if you guys have any questions for us that we can answer.
If you guys have any questions, you can ask now or put them in the chat and then we can read them.
Somebody has to ask a question.
Okay, someone asked for contact information for.
I think Stephanie can probably provide all of our contact info. That'd be great.
Yep.
And I know I talked briefly about shadowing, and I know that one just said I'm intrigued in shadowing a chiropractor. You know, going into a private practice and seeing what happens on a day-to-day basis is really a great thing to do. If you're unsure, or, you know, we used to joke, maybe I shouldn't say this in a group. Yeah, I'll say it. Back in, this is a young profession. Okay, our profession literally is 125 years old, right? So when you look at medicine and you look at acupuncture and you look at some of these different fields, they've been around a lot longer than chiropractic has. And I remember one time I had just become a chiropractor, and somebody says, well, you probably have like shag carpeting on your walls, right? I mean, that's what you guys are. You're all about, like, you know, shag carpeting on your walls. I said, that didn't even make sense to me at the time, right? But it's the way that we're viewed as a profession. And I think shadowing some practices is very important. And I'm just going to throw out a couple of things. We have a student right now that is doing an internship at Walter Reed Medical Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. We have students that have interned with Veterans Administration facilities, not only here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, but anywhere from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Altoona, Pennsylvania, Little Rock, Arkansas, Nashville, Tennessee, Miami, Florida, Poplar Bluff, Missouri. We have VA affiliations all over the United States. And we also have, I've already mentioned the Department of Defense affiliation with Walter Reed, but we also have an affiliation with Scott Air Force Base across the river in Illinois. We have 2 big university relationships. One is our University of Memphis relationship. We have a chiropractor on staff at the University of Memphis. And then we also have a chiropractor on staff at the University of Missouri, Columbia. So the way that we kind of look at our education is one that I would call well-rounded. If you want to go into private practice and be a solo practitioner, we train you for that. But if you want to be trained to go work in a VA facility, a DOD facility, or work in a university setting, or in an integrative health center, we train you for that as well. We take a lot of pride in having a well-rounded education that, prepares you to be employable when you leave Logan. And look, we can graduate as many chiropractors as we possibly could push through the system. None of that matters unless we can, get you the job that you want when you graduate. We know that everyone that buys into a program takes on risk, and they also have to pay a lot of money for that education. And we take a lot of pride in, really catering to getting you that dream job upon graduation. there was Theo asked about how much do chiropractic practitioners combine other circles of knowledge, such as things like PT, acupuncture, massage, psychological assessments. I'm going to tell you right now that we absolutely, we have acupuncture in our curriculum. So if you want to learn acupuncture as a chiropractor, we do train you, and it's in our curriculum as an elective technique. We absolutely advise you to go out and work with other practitioners. We want you to be able to understand the lingo. So if you go work with a doctor, a physical therapist, or a nurse practitioner, or a PA, we want our graduates to fit in. So we can't have you go into a setting and not be able to walk the walk. So it's all about being integrative. We know the future of healthcare is integration, and we have to do healthcare as a team approach. Chiropractic is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the end all be all. And we really take a lot of pride in, fulfilling that piece of the puzzle. And working with being able to go into a hospital setting or a private practice. I mean, think about those two settings. They're radically different. But that's what during our educational process, we put you through those processes. So we want you to go spend some time in the VA hospital. We want you to go spend some time with Mercy. We want you to go spend some time with a private practice, because it will decide what you want to do when you graduate Logan.
Okay, I think we'll have Josh's question be the last one.
Okay.
Maybe we can combine the two, but how does chiropractic career connect with community and service? And then, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I mean, community and service, we're very strong on community and service and community service. So we want our younger students, and I think CJ, maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but we want our students actively involved in the community. And although we don't have any strict community service requirements, we do ask all of our students to be a part of their community and to go out and do community service. And just as a side note, as a community, we do our faculty and our staff and our students routinely do a significant amount of community service, because it's not just our students that we work with. It's our faculty, it's our staff, it's our administration. And we have we can highlight a few different things that we do in the community. But if you have anything that you could add real quick, I know we're almost out of time.
We also have our student clinic, which is our #1 community outreach, where patients can come in if they're less fortunate, don't have insurance, and they can come in for $10 and be seen by any student doctor under the supervision of a licensed doctor as well. And then I know all of our clubs on campus are very vocal in their community outreach as well. Not just keeping our knowledge to the school, we want it to spread nationwide. So the outreach in the local community is very crucial for the profession as well as the school. And then I know to be prepared for your future internships and stuff, you want to go out and shadow and get not only your name out there, but the school out there, and give back, even if it's just volunteering to help work for a licensed chiropractor or working in a physical therapy clinic, and really just giving back to people. Because in this career field, you want to help people get better, but you want to spread the knowledge so they can help themselves stay better.
If I can say something, Dr. Goodman, can you talk about the fact that chiropractic school is actually, you can do specialty in different fields of chiropractic. So you can be a neurology, pediatric, or sort of even nutrition. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We have we have a pediatric clinic within our clinic system at Logan. We have many students that choose to specialize in neurology. Our biggest specialty right now is probably sports and chiropractic, but we also have a large contingency of our students that concentrate on nutrition. Now, the other thing that we have, so we have a lot of our students that concurrently take our master's programs as well. So we have our master's in sports and rehabilitation and our master's in nutrition. And our students are able to concurrently take those programs. So imagine graduating, Logan, with your acupuncture certification, your master's in nutrition, and your doctor of chiropractic. It really sets you apart from other graduates from other schools. So great question.
Okay, I just want to thank you three again for coming today and speaking. Also, again, if anyone has any more questions, you guys can email Stephanie. Her email is in the chat. So thank you again.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
She's a UIC alum with a dual bachelor's in marketing and management. And after taking microeconomics as an elective and being led astray, she found herself in corporate America only to realize she had made a mistake. And after working for a few years, she made the decision to quit her job and go back to medicine and found her way into PA school. She has now been practicing since 2008 and has worked in a wide array of specialties from orthopedic surgery, emergency room, internal medicine, occupational health, and urgent care. She currently is working at an active duty military base screening Navy Special Warfare, submarine, and nuclear duty candidates. So without further ado, Soda.
Do I need to make her co-host?
Yeah, I think you're on mute.
All right, can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Sneha, for the introduction. So I have been a PA for a long time, and when I first actually even heard about the PA profession, it was completely by sheer chance. Like Sneha said, you know, I graduated from UIC with a dual bachelor's, worked in corporate America, said, you know, this really isn't for me. And so my initial plan was to go back to med school. And then a friend of mine had just graduated PA school. And she's like, well, why don't you look into being a PA? Because it gives you more of a work-life balance. And, you know, there's a lot that we as PAs can do that, of course, you know, we don't go through the medical school and the residency and all that stuff, but you know, the field is so vast. The profession actually started back in 1967 by 4 Navy corpsmen, which is kind of funny because I work at Navy boot camp now, and Navy corpsmen are basically like the medics in the Navy. And they started the profession back in 1967. And since then, we have over 140,000 PAs in the United States now. From everything that I've done, you know, I used to first assist in the OR. So I would, you know, go ahead and harvest like the ACL grafts and then help them put the ACL grafts in, or I would help put the screws into the back when we did spine cases. There is anything, I mean, everything that you can possibly think of, a PA can be in that profession. Right now, there's about 260 PA schools. When I actually was applying to PA school, there was only 4 schools in Illinois: Southern, Midwestern, Rosalind Franklin, and Malcolm X. And I went to Malcolm X, which was actually the first PA program in Illinois, and we were directly linked with Cook County Hospital. So I actually had the privilege of doing a lot of my rotations over at Cook County Hospital. And I've seen stuff that I will probably never again see in my life. I've had patients sneezing in front of me. I've seen completely decayed bodies. You know, it's just the experience that I got that was pretty amazing. I think now there's about 7 PA programs in Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. Dominican is actually one of them that just recently started a program. But during our rotations and during our training, we actually get 2,000 clinical hours. So the first year is didactic, and we usually have like a rotation that you usually end up doing during your didactic year. But then the second year is all clinicals, and we do every single thing. So much like there's other, you know, mid-level providers who say they pick family practice, or they'll pick pediatrics or ER, and they just do those rotations. For PAs, we have to do everything. So we do pediatrics, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, internal medicine, psych. We have to rotate in everything. So by the time we're done, we've kind of seen a little bit of everything. And most programs are about 27 months to 3 years long. Before the programs back about 15 years ago, you would graduate with a bachelor's. However, now you need a bachelor's to get into the program. And then every single program is now a master's. There are programs popping up where you can get your doctorate, and it's more if you're going to be, doing academics, or if you're going to be focused on research. And that's what the doctorate levels are more designed for. Once we pass PA school, once we're done with PA school, then we take a national certification exam. And our role model basically for the PA program and the PA keeping up with our accreditations is exactly like the doctor role model. So almost every single PA school that I know of, you will start off your classes with medical students. After a few classes, you split off, and then the med students go in their own direction, and then the PAs go in their own direction. So everything that we do, we model basically the MD role model, because that's how the profession essentially started. So for example, doctors need 100 what we call continuing medical education hours every 2 years. We need 100 every 2 years. When the family practice doctors, they had to recertify every 6 years. We had to recertify every 6 years. When they went to the 10-year model, we went to the 10-year model. So I'm not due for my recertification. I think I still have 4 more years, so I'm good for right now. But when you recertify, you're basically recertifying on everything. So you're sitting for your boards all over again, studying all over again. And so I like it because we get to learn everything, and we have to know everything, because even a dermatology PA, when they recertify, they have to know how to manage hypertension and all that other good stuff with it. But that also makes us very versatile. So I started off in orthopedics. I said, this is great. Then I'm like, I'm going to move into urgent care, which was completely different, right? Because I went from looking at the only time I did any acute evaluations were when someone came in with a fracture in the ER that they couldn't reduce, or if they came in with a dislocation that they couldn't reduce, to seeing people actually in the acute care setting. So I went from orthopedics to urgent care, but I had the training to kind of switch right over. And then I did urgent care for a while and said, you know what, I'm going to go to internal medicine because I needed more a work-life balance with the kids, because by then I had 2 kids. So then switched over to internal medicine. Most PAs, about 50% of, or a little bit over 50% of PAs do work in an outpatient setting. And then there's about 40% that work in a hospital-based setting, and there's some in the urgent care, and then there's like a small subspecialty of just other. And depending on the setting that you're working, when I was in orthopedics, I'm not going to cut open the patient myself and start fixing their bones. However, I've had friends who work in cardiothoracic surgery, and they would actually take the patient into the OR, cut them, get the vein harvested and ready, and then the cardiothoracic surgery would come in. They'd flip the patient over, then crack open their chest. So it depends on how much of an autonomy you have depending on the setting. Right now, I work with 100% autonomy. I see my own patients. I make my own clinical decisions. I do everything. If there's a weird case that I have, then I'll go to the doctor and say, hey, what's going on? But I have my own license. I have my own DEA license. So I'm able to write my own prescriptions. I'm able to order all my tests by myself. I interpret them. And that's why I cried every single day in PA school, because we are expected to know a lot. And we are expected to be able to look at a patient, diagnose them, make sure we're coming up with the right assessment and plan, and treat them appropriately. I absolutely love being a PA. And it's because I tell people I kind of have professional ADD, where I've been in my current setting for 5 years, which is the longest I've stayed in any subspecialty. And I like it because, I get to work with Navy recruits. So I get to see a lot of interesting cases. I've seen stuff that I'll never see again. Like recently had a 17-year-old that we diagnosed with lymphoma, like out of nowhere, completely healthy, came, and then, there's just a wide array of things that we see. And I think that's one of the biggest perks about being a PA is that you can move from specialty to specialty to specialty. And, there's some specialties that are harder to get into, of course, like dermatology and stuff like that. However, the flexibility of being a PA is absolutely amazing. So that's all I have. Any questions? Does anyone know what a PA is? Have you guys heard of the PA profession? You have, Sneha?
Yes, they actually had some presentations from a PA not long ago, the kinesiology students, KN100. Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of PAs in sports medicine and orthopedics because, there's, so far as I know, cardiothoracic, ER, and orthopedics are the three subspecialties that you can actually get a fellowship in. So I have two friends who are actually going to start their fellowship in January, one in orthopedics and one in emergency medicine. And I think that's fantastic. If you know what profession you're going to be in forever or what subspecialty you're going to be in forever, I would highly, highly, take the route of being doing a fellowship. But I'm not sure if I would I mean, I loved orthopedics. I loved being in the OR, and I thought it was it was a very soothing place for me because I turned my pager over, and I love the surgery aspect of it because you have one thing and one thing to focus on, and that was it, So if I had chosen to stay in orthopedics forever, I would definitely do a fellowship because there's so much more that you can do because at that point you can reduce fractures and you can splint people. The hospital setting that I worked at, if the resident wasn't there, then we would be able to do that. So I thought it was such a great thing. What does your day-to-day look like? So I start work at 6:30, and because we're at boot camp, and when I'm at boot camp, they're up at like 5:30. So 6:30, our patients usually start trickling in. What I do right now, what I have to screen Navy Special Warfare, so your Navy SEALs, your Navy Explosive Ordnance guys, the guys who are going to be jumping out of planes and diving into the water and, diffusing bombs underwater and all of that stuff. And then the guys who are going to go on any submarines and the guys who are going to be going on any nuclear fuels, I have to screen them, and the guidelines for them are significantly different. So they come in, I do their screening physicals, and then I usually have patients that trickle in throughout the day that I've actually had to do further workup on, and then I'm usually done by 3 o'clock. This is the earliest I think I've ever been able to get out of work with 6:30 to 3, and this is because of the setting that I work in. If sometimes a patient comes in with an abscess or a laceration or something like that, then I love cutting stuff open. So I get so excited if someone comes in with an abscess because I'm like the first one there trying to cut it open and, and pack it and all that stuff. So every day to day really does vary. I think when you're in a completely outpatient setting, such as, family medicine or internal medicine or any of those clinics where you have your daily list of patients, it's a lot more different. How much involvement do you have in the surgery aspect? It depends on the specialty. For orthopedics, when I did spine cases, I would help put in the screws into the spine. I would harvest and I would prepare the grafts for any allografts or autografts that we had. We would do closures, that would be putting in drains. It just depends on how comfortable your collaborating physician is with you. And a lot of them are really good. For dermatology, you're going to be doing a lot of the excisions and you're going to be doing the biopsies and stuff like that. For cardiothoracics, I said, you're probably going to be harvesting the veins. For general surgery, you're definitely going to be first assisting. So every specialty in surgery is going to be different, but you're pretty involved. You are the first assist. Unless it's an absolutely teaching hospital, you're going to be the first assist, standing right there next to the surgeon doing all that stuff. How would someone choose between being a PA or a physician? And that is a fantastic question. And people ask me all the time, do you regret not becoming a doctor? And my simple answer is no. And it's a multifold answer, because I love the flexibility that I have, and I love the fact that I'm not $500,000 in debt. Okay. Medicare, Medicaid, insurance, all of that stuff is something that people don't think about when they decide to go to med school. Payout rates are dropping because they understand that, hey, if my patient can go to a PA and have a full physical, why am I going to pay a doctor a much higher rate? And essentially, people don't understand that this is still a business. A hospital is a business, a clinic is a business, and so they're going to do what's going to make the most sense. And if you're a really good PA, a patient is going to prefer to see you over a doctor any day, because we have the time to spend with them. And that is one of the biggest things that a patient will say, is that we spend time and we listen. And because, if I can see 4 patients in an hour and the doctor seeing 4 patients in an hour, however, they're billing for the doctor a lot more, but only getting paid just a tad bit more than I am, then why would someone employ a physician over a PA if there's already a physician available in the practice? So can we practice by ourselves? No. We need a collaborating physician, because that's how the profession was built. The profession was built for it to be a collaborating thing. That's why whenever I have a question, I go to my collaborating physician and say, hey, what do you think about this? So I think it's, the question you have to ask yourself is, what role do you want to play? If you want to be a surgeon, can you be a PA? No, because you're not going to be able to cut someone open. However, if you want to do something like internal medicine, but you're not really sure if you necessarily want to stay in that field forever, and you want the flexibility, you still want to make a good income, because we still make a pretty good income, then I think a PA profession is an absolute, the right choice. What are your thoughts on the treatments of PAs during the pandemic? I just got off the phone yesterday with a friend who is an infectious disease PA. So all she sees right now are COVID patients. And I'm not saying just like, hey, I tested positive for COVID. No, like really, really sick COVID patients. I think the PAs in this pandemic, the ones that are being laid off are the ones that are working in these outpatient settings where, people are scared to go to the doctor. And so there's not appointments. And those are the ones that are being laid off. The PAs that are on the front lines, who are seeing and taking care of people day in and day out, regardless if they have COVID or not, such as ERs, urgent cares, clinics that are open all the time. I think we have been doing an amazing job, and it's a shame. It's a shame that they're having to lose their jobs. However, it's not just PAs who are losing their jobs. There's a lot of physicians who are being laid off as well. There's a lot of nurses being laid off as well. And from your experience in the hospital, can you elaborate on the work-life balance? I never took call in the hospital because my clinic or when I was in ortho, we always had the residents take call. I have taken call in the past, and I think I wanted to be more present as a mom. And if you are going to be taking call, if you're going to be a hospital's PA and you work 12 on, 12 off, it just depends on, again, what specialty you're in. I think just being a PA, you can choose to be in a subspecialty that's going to allow you to have some balance. So if you choose to become, a trauma PA, are you going to have that much of a work-life balance? No, because you're probably going to be working very, very long days. What are the main differences between a PA and an NP, and deciding which to go after? So for NPs, you know, their role model is the nursing model. So even I've had friends who have gone through NP school, and there's only one PA school that I know is online. All the other PA schools are brick and mortar. You're sitting in the class, and I have lots and lots of friends who are NPs. And from what I have seen from them and heard from them is that a lot of these schools, you have to find your rotations. But the main difference is that our didactic and our teaching and everything is from a doctoral model, and NPs are taught more from the nursing model. They do learn, of course, they're going to be working the same aspect of, you know, diagnosing, treating, and all that stuff. But those are the two main things. How did you get through PA school, and what did you do for clinical experience? So I actually became an EMT. When I decided to switch careers, I became an EMTB, and I worked in the ER as an ER tech, which was a fantastic experience because I learned so much that I actually took into PA school with me. How did I get through PA school? A lot of crying and wondering what I've done with my life, but a lot of crying. You have no life. If you plan on working during PA school, you are guaranteed to fail. That's why no PA program will allow their students to work. You are there from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in class. And you have to remember, you are learning how to take care of patients. You are not you're not an accountant where you can crush numbers and you have an extended period of time or whatever. You are literally learning to take care of patients. So your job should only be studying. Lots and lots and lots of studying. But you will make it. It is a very rewarding career, so you will make it.
There was one more question up in the top. Do you allow students to shadow you?
We have PA students that shadow us, but however, it is hard to get students that are not in PA programs simply because where I work, you have to get onto a military base, and that's difficult. And the second thing is there's a lot of HIPAA, and you know, I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, so you know, they move very, very slow when it comes to approving stuff. So I've tried many times to get students, but it just, unless you're actually in PA school, it's been pretty difficult. There's a lot of clinics, and if you find a lot of other PAs who work in outpatient settings, you have a much better of a chance.
All right, Ms. Sweta, well, thank you so much for your time. That is all the time we have for today, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to email us and then we can send them over to her. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, so next up, we have a personal trainer speaking with us today. His name is Shyam Bhatia. A little bit about him. He is an independent online trainer. He started his own online coaching business after graduating from Illinois Institute of Technology here in Chicago with a bachelor's in business in December 2019. He received his certification from the American Council of Exercise during this time as well, otherwise known as ACE. And he trains his clients through a mobile app. So without further ado, Shyam, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here with you. I feel a little unqualified with all of you professionals that have been in the industry for decades and stuff, but hopefully I could partake some value today and leave you with some nuggets of information. A little background about me. I grew up in Texas and California, and then I went to Chicago, like Sneha said, for university. And during that time, I actually saw that some other speakers had this similar experience, but you know, I kind of found that business really was my passion. And I always loved fitness whenever I was growing up. I played a lot of sports, football, track and field, a lot of stuff like that. But it wasn't seeming like something that was very, let's call it practical, right? Like a lot of people tell us that I'm sure a lot of people in this room can attest to, you know, being in this industry, like, you know, it's not really practical and stuff. But regardless, I went that route because I kind of felt like for myself, I'm really passionate and I put a lot more effort in when it's something that I am passionate about. And then so yeah, after I graduated from IIT in December of 2019, I transitioned fully into working on my own online business. We do things a little bit differently, as you can kind of see, especially with COVID. During that time, a lot of gyms were still, standard protocol. So I was quite new to the online game right when I started. And then about 2 months in, COVID kind of happened. So a lot of the industry was forced to change. So pretty much what we do is through our mobile app, we train our clients, we send them video workouts, give them the sets, the reps, we help them with their nutrition, help them count their calories, their macros. We do form checks. I have weekly consultation calls in this setup you see behind me. And yeah, that's pretty much how we run things. And from a day-to-day perspective, I really wanted to open this up more for question and answer because I feel like what I do is a little bit different than what a lot of you guys have. And I probably don't have as much industry stories as a lot of people here. So why don't we just go ahead and start with questions. Let's see. Fire away whenever you're ready. Oh, right. Awesome. A normal day. So let's see. Today I actually had a client call. So like I said, I do weekly consultations with people every single day. And being an entrepreneur, if any of you guys, raise your hand. You guys are, a lot of people here mostly like physical therapy, or a lot of people interested in personal training. Raise your hand if you're into personal training or you want to go that route. PT. Can they raise their hand? I don't know. I think this is a different, yeah. No, we can't raise their hand. Okay, that's all good. So yeah, personal trainer. So a little bit of a mix maybe. Yeah, so for me, what a normal day looks like is pretty much client consultations, form checks. That's a huge one. Being online, right? We have to adapt. We have to find another way to pretty much be there face to face with our clients because this is very hands-on industry, right? Like the previous speaker was kind of talking about. There's very few like online programs if you want to become a full-fledged like doctor of physical therapy or something like that. So to kind of mitigate that, a lot of my time is spent on Zoom, on Instagram video, stuff like that. And yeah, after that, I usually pretty much do a lot of client consultations on the app, right? So we'll pretty much be constructing new workouts for clients. I actually got an assistant, so I'm able to do some less video editing, less marketing, less of that, boring stuff that kind of comes along with being an entrepreneur and running your own business. And I've been able to focus more on like that day-to-day fitness stuff. So early in the game, I will definitely tell you it was a lot more like wearing a bunch of different hats all day long. I'm part-time video editor, part-time marketer, part-time content creator, part-time actual personal trainer. So hopefully, as you get later into the game, if you decide to go the entrepreneurship route, you get to go back to what you love, right? Which is training clients. And so yeah, that's what my usual day looks like. A lot of stuff on the computer. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you find it difficult to like teach people the correct form over since it's being online and everything like that?
I think it depends on the client. I will say a lot of people are quicker to pick it up than others. Like some people, you give them a simple cue, like imagine that there's a tangerine under your armpit when you're trying to activate your lats, right? And they get it. For other people, we have to do some different movement screenings. That's another big part of my job. So just basically taking them through some basic movements. And then that does make my job a little bit harder because it's not as easy to see, right? The little tweaks in the form, the movement and everything that's going on over video. But we do, we play around with it. We give our clients plenty of time. And, if they have to come back next time, next week, or in a couple of days, kind of check back in, that's completely fine. What is the most challenging thing about your job? I would say, like I was saying earlier, being an independent personal trainer, being an entrepreneur, it's just wearing a lot of different hats all the time, right? Any personal trainer, I think, will kind of have this maybe in the beginning, unless you're just, working at a big box gym. You have to do a lot. You have to manage client programs, you have to deal with people, you have to worry about sales and different things like that. So that can be the biggest struggle. A lot of people expect it to just be clients coming through the door every single day, but a lot of it is, how do we get those clients? How can we get people excited about fitness, from my perspective, at least? I did do my own thing right after graduating. So I started my coaching business. Let's see, it would have actually been 1 year before I got my certification. So please don't tell anybody or report me. But I started posting on Instagram and social media. And I had some friends from high school. I actually had a buddy that was doing modeling. He had a shoot coming up in 6 weeks. He wanted to drop some fat, get in some better shape. So I was like, well, I guess I'm starting coaching now. And so ever since then, I've been doing it. And then at the end of my degree, I was finishing my certification, like I was saying, and kind of ramping up the business. Because I really, like I said, and like you kind of mentioned, I did want to do full-time own business right after graduating. So I was working very hard that last semester. Let's see. Oh yeah, for sure. So the app that you can connect with me on, it's called Trainerize. That's pretty much the platform that we use to power our app, so that we don't have to go in and build all like, hey, here's how it work out, app codes. We get to go in and just give our clients the workout, right? Give them the video, give them the sets, give them the reps. So if you're on the iOS, you can search Trainerize, and then my clients have a little login that they use to go into our specific like training, platform, if you will. But otherwise, if you're on Android, you can search Shambatia Fitness and you'll be able to find it right there. Because I don't know if you guys know, but iOS is a little bit more tricky when it comes to getting on the App Store. As Sneha actually showed right here, Fitness with Freedom is a new brand that I'm launching. I used to do Shambatia Fitness or sham.fit. I can write it down in the chat if you guys want to check out my Instagram. Instagram is where I post the most regularly. You can find the most content and all the other stuff for me to get, or all my other platforms rather. And yeah. Fitness with Freedom is a new one that I'm actually doing. So I guess I can tell you guys a little bit about it if you're interested. Pretty much what it is I'm sure you guys can kind of see as a personal trainer, a lot of my time is spent hands-on with clients, but that kind of limits me in terms of time, right? I'm not able to really like help, like there's only so many hours in the day. How many clients can I really see, right? So with Fitness with Freedom, what I've decided to do is have a different platform, a different app, for some other clients. And what we're going to do on there is have on-demand workouts. So rather than, full-fledged personal training service where I'm going to give you the exercises, work with you one-on-one, make sure everything's, moving in the right direction. This is more of an on-demand program, right? So people can get, what's it called? All the workouts that they want and some general advice to get them started. Let's see. What's your job? Here.
Many questions on the top as well.
I'm skipping. My bad.
Downward very fast. Did you do your own thing right away after graduating? And I think
yes. Right. Yep. I did do my own thing right after graduating.
Is there anything that has become easier for you since we've started quarantine?
That is a great question, actually. I'm glad I went back to it. In the beginning, right, we have those clients, or especially for me as an independent trainer, that were kind of like scared, especially like financially. Right. And they're like, oh, I can't afford the training anymore or something like that. And then what we kind of saw was because everybody had to transition online, my business was actually able to grow quite a bit from it. So I don't want to say it was a good thing, but it definitely had its advantages, we'll say. And I will say afterwards, actually, kind of lead me into my next point, Fitness with Freedom. The reason I'm coming up with it is because since the quarantine, the competition online has become a lot more fierce, right? So while online was a great model and it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of people weren't on it before quarantine. A lot of people have moved that way now, right? All the big fitness brands are trying to come up with their own fitness app. So what you kind of need to do is transition and pivot. Let's see, what certifications did you get prior to becoming a personal trainer? No certifications. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I feel a little weird saying this, but I actually learned everything that I used for my job before I got my certification. I'll just be completely blunt with you. I think all the information is online nowadays. The certification was for, what's it called, social proof. So I'm like, hey, I can come to my clients and like, I actually do know what I'm talking about, right? But I really will say all the information is online these days. If you guys are interested in like physical therapy, but you're not sure if you like it, maybe, look up some free courses or something like that before you get into it. Let's see. Yep, the website. How does your job connect with volunteering community? I wish it had more community, I'll be honest. I'm just kidding. I will say in person in the local Houston area, which is where I'm located at right now, we really don't do much outreach. And that's just simply because I am not a local business, right? I actually have no clients in the Houston like immediate area that I see in person. Everybody's online. So I don't do that much there. We do free giveaways for our coaching every once in a while, especially for our clients that have been with us for a long time. That is something really cool that we do. And we do actually offer $500 cash prizes for some of our transformations. So that's really cool as well. Let's see, how do you attain those clients? Yeah, okay. So most of my clients come through Instagram, right? And a lot of social word to mouth, I honestly find. Since I am independent, I'm not like a big brand that you've heard about for a bunch of years. I find that delivering a really, really high quality service and then people being really excited about your product and talking about it is the best way to get clients, at least for me in my business. The age group, I have everybody. I have high school athletes all the way from moms in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Really depends. Do you work with registered dietitians? Yes, no, I don't work with a registered dietitian. I just give general macro advice, right? General guidelines that are, within the scope of practice for personal trainers, because I know it's a little bit tricky there. But I will be completely honest, nutrition is huge, right? So if I am not able to address it for my clients, then I think I'm doing them a disservice. So what I do is pretty much refer to those general guidelines that what's called the FDA recommends for calories, macros, all that good stuff. And by doing so, I'm within my scope of training, and I don't need to go out and get a registered dietitian. I think that's most of the questions. Let's skip it. Let's see. Are you looking to expand my business? Yes, I am. Fitness with Freedom is kind of my way to do that, right? So with that, I'll be able to have more trainers maybe on hand in the future that are able to, do like kind of the day-to-day stuff like programming and doing stuff like that. And then, we can work more on branding and different stuff. Let's see.
When you started your own business, was there anything like shocking that you discovered that you didn't maybe know about? Or like any advice that you can give for people who want to start their own business?
Let's see. I think it's really important after, or at least this is me, right? I love the stuff, as you guys can obviously probably hear. Like I went online and started becoming massively interested in it before I got my certification. So you got to remember that when you come back to your clients. I think that's one of the biggest things that I have to remind myself on a daily basis. We know all the science, we know all the fancy terms, and we have all of that information in our head. The clients don't. So we really have to make sure that we're being very mindful about where their mind is at, the level of information that they already have, and bring it down to something that they can practically understand. That is just something that I didn't really expect, right? Because you expect, oh, I need to know the most. I need to have all the information. And then you talk to clients, right? I've had clients on the phone say, that are reaching out to me from Instagram, and they don't end up signing up because I talk too much. I talk too much about the program. I talk too much about the science, and they didn't understand. It wasn't applicable to them. So that's my biggest thing. It's not just about knowing how to get people results. It's how do you apply it to people. I think that's one of the biggest things. Anybody here interested in going to their own online business or being an entrepreneur, fitness entrepreneur?
You have a business background, so that's really good. And this is something that the students don't have, and don't think that if they're taking a kinesiology degree, they actually need to know it. Not necessary to be an entrepreneur, but even if you're in an establishment, in a clinic, or whatever it is, you really need to know the type of businesses and the structure in order to know where you're working.
That's true. That's very true. Nice. Probably working on your certification for that. That's awesome. I think it's a great thing to do. I'm actually considering going in the kinesiology route as well and just furthering my education. I think personal training for me was something that I could start working on practically, actually start practicing working with people before I went full on. Business, especially with the pandemic happening. Yeah, for sure. A lot of people are considering online options. Oh, I'm glad I could be a little bit of inspiration, man. It's definitely possible. I will say it's not going to happen overnight, right? The best thing that I can say is you have to like trying to create the next big thing is like great. And what I found is that your motivation is going to be high some days, and then you're going to feel down some days. What you really want to focus on is like giving that result to the clients, right? Creating that real relationship, and that's so they talk to people, and then then it'll grow beyond you, right? There's a point where you're putting so much effort into starting your own business, and that it really feels like you're grinding your wheels. When you know you're doing the right thing is when it kind of takes off beyond you, at least in my experience. So, dude, you got it. Keep doing what you're doing. You're definitely in the right place. Just start impacting people, start training people, and work on those certifications. And I will say, you don't need a huge follower count. Don't think that you need to have like a couple thousand or anything like that. Like, I have 25 clients, and it pays the bills. You know what I mean? Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, my training does differ client to client. It really depends on the individual, of course, right? Like from a basic training standpoint, the workouts and the exercises that we're going to give them definitely change. The platform is all the same, right? So we're all putting them very simply into the same app. So I can keep up with them, quite honestly, very easily. But what we want to do beyond that is kind of, break it down for the client. So nutritionally, right, we want to put them in the right camp. If they want to lose fat or build muscle, make sure that they're doing things the right way there. And as far as workouts go, of course, we have some athletes that have very specific training. And then we have, moms that are just trying to drop fat, get in shape, quick 20-minute workouts here and there. How has my business degree helped me in starting my business? And do you think I could have done it without it? That is a great question. I will be honest with you. During my business degree, I had very serious thoughts about dropping out just because I kind of realized halfway through that this is what I want to do. And I will say that it has helped me. It's not invaluable, but I will say that the business degree was definitely not worth the 40 grand I spent annually in terms of how much it impacts my business right now. So yeah, like especially for online businesses, right? Because the market has changed so much recently, and I don't know, at least my business university didn't pivot as well. Can you elaborate more on your experience working with athletes and their styles of training? For sure. So for athletes, we've worked with collegiate athletes. We've worked with some guys in the military that need to improve specific athletic performance, right? Like they needed to get fast on their mile time or something like that. We've also worked with baseball athletes. For example, baseball athletes. He had a coach that was super crazy back in his university that was very hardcore about not getting shoulder injuries, right? So we had to work around that. He wasn't able to do any pressing. So what we had to do is give him isolation exercises for, the lateral head of the deltoid, on the rear delt, the chest, and all those different muscles to kind of work around what he was comfortable with and make sure we didn't put too much load on his rotator cuff and keep everything safe there. It really depends. We do different athletes that like to improve their vertical, and we break down a couple of different things. It really depends on what you want to do, right? So we always try to reverse engineer whatever our client wants to do. If they have a specific goal, like dropping fat or improving an athletic endeavor, like an athletic performance, then we're going to reverse engineer how to get them there. Any other questions, guys? Feel free.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So how'd you go from like idea to execution? Like once you birthed the idea, how did you know, okay, like how much work do I have to put in before I actually can launch?
That is a great question. I will be honest with you. Me specifically, it didn't feel like it fell into my lap, but more so like when I was like, okay, I kind of knew what I wanted, and then I'm getting ahead of myself. Pretty much, I was like, okay, I know that I want to do something in fitness. And I know that I want to be able to do it online so that I'm not tied down to one location, right? I don't want to work at a gym. So I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And I actually came along a fitness influencer who was teaching other coaches on how to do this very thing. And that's when I stumbled upon the Trainerize platform. And it was kind of like, you know, the two things kind of clicked. That was a way that I could start immediately training clients without building a huge app, which would take years. I think the biggest thing from idea to execution and how I got over it, because I am a procrastinator. So if we have any other people in here that are procrastinators and I can help a little bit, I would say try to focus on the stuff you can do today, right? Don't try to be like, okay, in the next year, I'll build this app. Because in the year, the app will not be built, I promise you. So focus on what you can do today. Focus on, you know, one message that you can send to somebody on Instagram that could help them with their fitness, or, you know, just reach out to one person or something like that. I think that's the biggest shift from idea to execution. How do you assess new clients? Great question. So we do a couple of things. Number one, we have a client consultation. In there, I pretty much ask them about their experience, you know, what workouts, what stuff have they done in the past? What is their biggest struggles currently? You know, is it the workouts themselves? Do you just hate working out? Do you hate cardio? Is it motivation? You know, really get behind why they're doing what they're doing. And then we pretty much do a little bit of a system breakdown, right? We tell them how the training is delivered. All right, here are your workouts. Here's where the app is going to be. Here's where you can find everything. And then after that, we do a movement screening. We either do that the same day or another time if the client doesn't have that time that day. And then during that time, that's when actual like personal training knowledge will come in, right? We'll do the Thompson test, we'll do shoulder mobility tests, we'll do spinal tests, we'll do flexion, you know, all that good stuff, extension, and pretty much, you know, I always ask the client, obviously, as well, if they experience any constant aches or pains or anything like that that could be plaguing them. And from there, we pretty much start designing the program. We have a very constant communication. So from their first workout, we're still going to be changing things depending on how things are feeling. And if things are improving the way that we want, we'll keep things moving in the same direction. If they're not, we'll always try something new. So the assessment never really changes, or never really stops, rather. Any more questions, guys?
Okay. I think we'll do one more question and
One.
then we'll turn it over. Yeah.
Oh, let's see. What is your preferred style of encouragement? My preferred style or the client's preferred style? Because I actually do ask, like, you know, because some people, they want the coach that's gonna be like, hey, you have not been on your shit. Like, sorry, excuse my language, but you have not been on your stuff. Let's get it together. And they'll be kind of hard on them, right? And so for some clients, they like that and they need that. And I ask them, do you want that? So for other clients, though, it's like, hey, you know, there's always tomorrow. You know, let's look at the long, you know, the big picture and focus on things that way. It really depends on the individual. And I find for some clients, like, for example, I was talking to another girl last week. She was being so hard on herself. She was like, oh, I'm 5 workouts behind. Like, I'm trying to catch up. I'm doing the best I can. And I'm like, look, I'll be honest with you. I think the fact that you keep telling yourself that you have so many workouts to get, like, you know, to make up is keeping you from hitting the workout still, right? Because it's just growing and getting more stressful. And so actually, if you just were like, you know what, I only have to worry about hitting a 20-minute workout today and I'm good, I think you'd be able to do it a lot more consistently. So yeah, that is my preferred style of encouragement, whatever gets them to be the most consistent. Awesome, thank you.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Sham. The questions really just poured in. That was, wow. So if you guys have any other questions, again, you can contact Sham on Instagram is the best media.
For sure.
Yeah. Maybe you can plug it back on the chat, but yeah, you guys can definitely ask him more questions. I'm sure you'll have a lot for you. So yes, thank you again, Sham.
So
really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much.
All right. Our next speaker that we have, our next professional, is Jenny Wright. She's a physical therapist assistant and she works at Athletical Physical Therapy. So let's give our undivided attention to Jenny. Jenny, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Wright, and assistant. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I I've been working with Athletico for 24 years. I worked as an aide for 5 years while I was finishing my bachelor's in exercise science. And then I took a gap year where I applied to PT school and PTA school. And then I did the 2 years of PTA school at Oakton University. During my gap year, I applied to both PT and PTA school. I didn't get into PT school in the first try, so I decided to go into the physical therapist assistant program because I had already been accepted. And I'm glad I did. Like, it was a good choice for me in terms of financially. It was a lot cheaper than most PT schools. I already had the exercise phys background, and so it meant that I didn't have to take a lot of the courses that are prerequisites for the PTA program. And so it's 2 full years, including summers, where you complete coursework and clinical education. And it was just a really good fit for me at the time. And so 20 years later, and I'm still treating, which makes me happy. I was hired on with Athletico as one of the first PTAs that they hired in the company because they used to have athletic trainers and physical therapists only. So they hired me on to work in one of their managed centers, which is a clinic that's within Illinois Bone and Joint, so within a physician's group, which was being a new graduate because the doctors are there. So if we ever had questions about protocols or if a patient was having trouble, we could just run down the hall and talk to them. So it was actually a good transition from being a student to being a professional. Some of the specialties that I have, I'm certified as a strength and conditioning specialist. I have a Graston technique certification, which is like a form of deep tissue work. I work with women's health, so prenatal, postnatal, incontinence. I've done the endurance program, so I've covered a lot of races, pre and post race stretching, information sessions for running groups. I have a certification in applied functional science, which is the study of like 3D movement. And I've also taken a certification in therapeutic neuroscience education for treating pain patients. So there's endless opportunity for growth as a PTA in the professional field, and specialization in many different aspects of PT, whether it be pediatrics or orthopedics or neuro or overhead athletes, hip preservation, men's and women's health, work comp, vestibular, dry needling. It's endless, like what you can do in terms of bettering yourself and continuing to grow as a professional if you were to decide to take that route after completing your exercise phys and kinesiology majors. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be free to answer them.
Yeah, we can start our Q&A if anyone has any questions. I'll start off. Oh,
thank you.
One came up in the chat. How do the job responsibilities of a PTA and PT technician differ?
Okay, so a PTA is a licensed professional. So they're licensed by the state. And basically the only thing different between a PT and a PTA is that the PTA doesn't do an initial evaluation. But in terms of all other treatment, doing progress notes, discharges, progression of therapy, as long as it's within the plan of care, the PTA has that ability to progress a patient. A technician is an unlicensed professional who is trained, like we train our aides in the clinic, and they learn exercise and form and function through us. So they are just assisting us in terms of like carrying out exercise and, you know, finishing up their sessions with the patient, as opposed to completing a whole session.
Can you elaborate about, can you elaborate about, you know, a lot of students, I'm a faculty advisor for the Kinesiology Club and at UIC faculty. So a lot of students always want to go to BPT.
Sure.
Which is a great thing.
It is.
Can we just highlight a little bit the, you know, the percentage of the acceptance to PT school, and if you don't get into PT school, does it mean that you're not good enough?
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's such a small class size in terms of PTs, and you can only apply once a year typically for most programs. So you have to wait out that year if you don't get into the first time. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means that their pool was that large that they could only choose this many people. Same thing, the program that I did at Oakton, we kind of had the same thing. It was about a 30 class ratio of students, and they have way more applicants than that. So it's kind of like picking the best of what they can get. And then, you know, hopefully, if you're still interested in and you're pursuing doing some more observation or volunteering and that kind of stuff to kind of build your resume, and that you have, you know, the grades that are good enough to get in. I don't see why there's any reason why if you didn't apply the second time that you wouldn't get in. I think it's just that there's an overabundance of applicants and very small pools of classes that are being held. So yeah, I definitely don't think that you're not good enough if you don't get in on the first try.
Just asking that because students are under the impression that this is the only thing that they have to do. And I'm really happy that you came to show them that right. You applied to both, but chose to go to PTA, and you don't feel lesser than a PT in your own clinic because you're working the same, you're doing the same things. Mm-hmm. Your education is less and you have less debts in your bank account.
Exactly. That was the biggest proponent for me to go to PTA school. Is I didn't have to wait that extra year to reapply, and it was much more affordable in terms of completing my degree. So.
Jenny, do you find it difficult sometimes when patients start to like question physical therapy and like how to keep them motivated? Because they'll be like, oh, I don't think it's working or anything like that, and then want to change and not do their therapy.
Yeah. It is hard to keep people motivated, especially if they don't see results right away. And typically in PT, it takes, you know, a good 2-3 weeks, maybe even 4 to 6 weeks to start to notice the benefits of strength. So we're hoping that we, you know, kind of grab their attention initially by doing some manual work and some, you know, pulling things out of our toolbox that kind of have the wow factor. It's like, wow, I really felt better after those first 2 sessions, that we can continue to keep them motivated to come and finish out their plan of care, because most times physical therapy does work, and especially now that we have direct access, we can see patients without them having to go see their doctors. So it makes access a lot easier for most people, I think.
There's a question about, I know there's hands-on work and paperwork. How is that?
Hands-on work and paperwork, was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how is it?
That can be difficult, especially when we're busy. We have 30-minute time slots. So we see patients every 30 minutes, which is why we have aides to help us out on the back end of that 30 minutes. So we try and do like all of our manual work and hands-on activities within those first 30 minutes of the patient being there. And then as we're transitioning into our second patient, as they're warming up, we're finishing up with them, and then an aide will help us take them through like their last several exercises. So our day is pretty busy. So it's a lot of multitasking in terms of completing paperwork while the patient's there, at least completing part of their note so that they know, so that you can remember like what you did, because it's back to back to back. So it's not like we have like 15 minutes in between each patient to go sit down and do their note. But I'm in an outpatient clinic, which is a lot busier now than we have been in the past several months. But it's different in different settings, I feel like too. I feel like in a hospital setting, you may have more time to do paperwork because I feel like there's more turnover of patients. And maybe sometimes a patient who is inpatient isn't ready for you or whatever. So you may have that extra half an hour to sit down and do paperwork. Where in our setting, it's really busy. So we try and do most of our paperwork while the patient is still there, but we do end up doing a lot of it during lunch or before we leave in the evening.
There's another question in the chat. What are some jobs undergrads can get if they're interested in PT?
What jobs? Oh, like before applying to PT school, is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
So like an aide or rehab tech are good. That's what I did, you know, for while I was completing my undergraduate, and even while I was in PTA school, I worked as an aide, and it just helps to get your feet wet to see what you're getting into. And you can always try that in different settings as well. Inpatient uses aides, as well as hospital outpatient, standard outpatients, nursing homes, all of those kinds of settings welcome help like that. And it really gives you a chance to see if this is something you really want to do. I definitely have seen, you know, several aides who have helped us out and who have been great, but they're like, yeah, this isn't for me. So it's definitely a good way to figure it out.
Kind of touched on it, but what different settings have you worked in, and have you ever worked in a hospital setting?
I have. I worked as an inpatient rehab at Resurrection Hospital while I was doing my undergrad as well. And so kind of a different patient population than what I see in the outpatient clinic is like, we saw a lot more stroke patients, a lot of total hips and a total knees, fall patients who have had like tumors. So collectively on rehab, they, you know, you get PT, OT, and speech. So they keep those patients fairly busy throughout their days. So it is a good setting to see. And then in terms of like when I was doing my internships, my clinical affiliations, I did acute inpatient, I did pediatrics, did outpatient. So there's many settings that PTs are useful in. So.
Kaylee asked, how does the job of a PTA connect with community and service?
There's definitely many ways to reach out to community. Being a PTA, same as a PT. Like I've done a lot of lectures for like our endurance program. I would go out with running teams who were like team in training, and we would do like injury prevention lectures for them for free, and vice versa. Like hopefully we would see patients return back to us because they heard of us through that. So it's kind of you give a little and you get a little. And then I've also had an affiliation with a Medicare physician's office called Oak Street Health. We've done some like fall prevention lectures for them. It's mainly elderly patients who are being seen in that clinic, as well as doing other community outreach to neighboring schools, like high schools who have athletics. We can go there and do injury prevention or speak with the coaches about strength training and that kind of thing. So there's endless ways to like connect to the community that you're in through PT.
How often do you work with other therapists, like occupational or speech?
So we're lucky enough to have occupational therapy in our clinic. So unfortunate for us, we don't see a ton of like elbow, wrist, or hand patients because they see those. So I feel like I'm not quite well as versed in those areas, but yeah, we have an OT in our clinic. speech we don't really see much of unless the patient is being seen in conjunction with speech, but that wouldn't be in our clinic as like a group therapy. It was when I was at the inpatient clinic in rehab. All of those faculties were there.
Another question from the chat. What's been the hardest thing you've had to adjust to since quarantine?
Yeah, homeschooling my kids. Yeah, I mean, it was hard to see like the decrease in volume that happened so rapidly back in March and April. And I thought, our clinic wouldn't be as affected as much because we're considered essential workers. But we still have our fair share of patients who either had like pre-existing conditions or who were elderly, and people who just didn't feel comfortable going out, so that was a hard adjustment, going from being very busy and working full time to trying to stay afloat and work as many hours as we could, depending on our volume. So that was probably the hardest thing.
Some asked, how did you like working in the pediatric setting?
I really liked it. Unfortunately, I feel like those jobs are hard to come by. The one that I did was in a school setting where they had PT, OT, and speech for kids that they mainstreamed who had disabilities. So it was very interesting. Working with kids I feel like it's a little harder than working with adults because you have to be ready to change your plan of care in like an instant because they lose their attention span so quickly. But I really enjoyed working with pediatrics.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, quick question actually that I wanted to ask. We know about the endless hours as you spoke, back-to-back patients.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there is a huge and a very high burnt out among PTs and PTAs. Can you explain to the students how do you deal with that and to not get there, and what do you do?
It kind of ebbs and flows. Like I feel like there are definitely times where I feel like completely burnt out and I don't want to do this anymore. And there's other times, like after I've taken a really good continuing education class or I've been certified in some other new technique, where you kind of get like a new inspired fire in you to like continue to do what you're doing. We definitely make a difference in people's lives. So I feel like that's the biggest motivating factor. But yeah, there's definitely a burnout rate. And then you can always like change the setting that you're in. Like outpatient is just very fast and there's a rhythm and a groove to it, where maybe if you were in a nursing home or in a hospital or working in a school system, that you wouldn't feel the same way. Like it wouldn't be as stressful or quick, where you would have more time to breathe in between patients. So there's always those options. And then I guess there's always teaching too. Like I can always maybe teach someday. So.
And then can you tell the student, because you said you have a strength and conditioning certificate, correct?
Yeah.
Did you prior to your PTA school?
I did it like shortly after I graduated from PTA school. I just wanted to have it just in case I ever wanted to do like personal training with somebody, which I did for a little while, and it was a good way to make some extra cash and continue like that, bridging that gap between finishing PT and having a patient return to like what their normal function would be. You couldn't justify to insurance anymore that they needed PT, but they still felt unsure about transitioning between finishing PT and like continuing to do whatever it is that they wanted to go back to doing, like running marathons or stuff like that. So I did it shortly after I graduated.
Do you feel that if students do, because we talk about pushing a lot of certification through their bachelor degree, actually, to become an active exercise specialist, a personal trainer, whatever, a coach, wellness coach, do you think that can boost their application to PT school?
I think it does, because I think it shows that you have more flexibility and you're able to multitask and complete different tasks, even though you're being burdened by your undergraduate degree and you're doing all those things all at once and you're successful at it. So I think that makes you more well-rounded and personable on an application, I guess. So, yeah.
Any last questions? No, I think that's it. Thank you, Jenny, for coming to
You're
talk.
welcome. You're welcome. Good luck to all of you. You're welcome.
Okay, so we'll just close up the event. Here are some save the dates. The Kinesiology Club will be having our general body meeting on November 23rd from 4 to 5. More information to come on our Instagram, which is at KN Club UIC. And also look out for emails with the flyer and all of that. And then also, Kristen Kepnick wanted me to mention that AHS will be having an alumni chat on Tuesday, February 23rd at 3:45. So that's when it will start. And she says that the event will have alumni and they'll be talking about the professions and answering students' questions, then rotating into small groups. Here is her email if any of you have any questions about that. Then once again, our contact information is down there. You can email the club at kinesiologyclubchicago@gmail.com, or you can email me. I'm the club president, and there's my email. And then also follow us on Instagram. That's normally where we post majority of our events that just update our members of the club. So once again, thank you all for coming to the career fair. I hope you enjoyed all the speakers that we had today. And then we will also be having another career fair in these.
Sorry, just save the dates for next semester as well. We're going to have another career fair coming up in the spring.
Yes.
And Fit for Life, a big event.
Oh yes. Yes, those are two main events that will be happening next semester. More information on those to come. And then also, if you guys have any professionals that you would like to hear from, I know a lot of you want to hear from physical therapists. So just let us know who you want to hear from, and then we can totally reach out and find people to talk at the career fair.
Somebody asked if new people can join Kines Club.
Oh yeah.
All the time.
All the time. This year has been a little different with COVID and everything like that. But if you have any more questions about that, was it Amanda? Yes. Definitely email me or the club, and then we'll get back to you. And then yeah, please join our general body meeting, which will be happening in like a week and a half. Yes, and then the recordings will be on YouTube, like Hector said. Hector, do you know our YouTube channel? Do you want to write the YouTube channel name in the chat?
Yeah, I'll just post a link on the chat right now so everyone could see it.
Okay.
One more thing I wanted to add actually is Christine had mentioned that we have something called career conversations. So that's something that's ongoing. So you can always go ahead and email her at Kristen like that, that you'll see in the chat. And basically what this is an ongoing informational interviewing program for alumni and current students. So you can just be talking to people that you want, like more one-on-one. And this can be done through the phone or any other electronic platform. So that's always a source that you can use, and that's always going on. So feel free to contact her as well about that.
Yeah, so her email again is kkepnick@uic.edu for more information on those things. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you all again, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the night. And we'll hopefully see you guys soon.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye.